As the 1960s commence, the world is ensnared in Cold War paranoia. Amidst the tensions, a glimmer of hope for relief emerges. However, that hope is swiftly shattered by a pivotal moment where an international incident unfolds with a surprising figure at its very core. May Day 1960, an American aircraft boldly breaches Soviet airspace, setting off an international incident that casts a pall over the approaching negotiations between the world's two superpowers. The aircraft in question is none other than the U-2 spy plane, a marvel of espionage technology employed by the CIA. Its code name, Dragon Lady, belies its formidable nature, boasting an impressive 80-foot wingspan and state-of-the-art cameras that make it the unparalleled instrument for gathering intelligence on Russia's military might. Guiding the U-2 on this perilous mission is an adept CIA pilot, Gary Francis Powers. His objective, to soar for 9 hours at a spine-tingling 70,000 feet altitude, traversing directly above half a dozen of the Soviet Union's most classified nuclear facilities. This endeavor, a heart-pounding thriller in the skies, comes laden with risk. It was only weeks ago that a similar U-2 flight was successfully tracked by a new Soviet radar installation. Despite its lofty altitude, there is real risk of detection and enemy contact. Moreover, the flight is scheduled on the very day of the Soviets' most cherished holiday, May Day. All this occurs just weeks ahead of the Paris summit, where President Eisenhower and Premier Khrushchev aspire to thaw the Cold War's icy relations. Astonishingly, there are no records suggesting that the CIA conveyed the peril of this mission to President Eisenhower. Furthermore, L. Fletcher Prouty, a former high-ranking military CIA operative and author, claims that Eisenhower had canceled all U-2 surveillance activities leading up to the summit. The flight, therefore, stands as a direct and daring act of insubordination by the CIA. As Powers ventures deeper into Soviet territory, the Soviet military springs into action. MiGs are scrambled, and a new type of surface-to-air missiles is swiftly deployed to eliminate the intruding U-2. 4 hours into his harrowing flight, Powers grapples with a malfunctioning autopilot, forcing him to manually maneuver the plane. The U-2's graceful glide is abruptly shattered as a surface-to-air missile strikes, causing the aircraft to convulse violently. Powers has no choice but to initiate a life-or-death emergency crash landing. With remarkable skill, he ejects from his crippled craft, triggering his parachute. His descent transports him deep into the heart of Russia, where he touches down in an isolated snow-covered field. He is subjected to immediate arrest, detention, and intensive questioning by the relentless KGB. It is the worst-case scenario at a pivotal moment in history. How could so many things go wrong? Remarkably, Powers himself believed that a single man within Russia, armed with classified knowledge about the U-2, held the key to the aircraft's downfall. Lee Harvey Oswald. Oswald's journey begins at the CIA's Atsugi base in Japan, where U-2 spy planes are launched for their perilous missions. It's here that the threads of espionage, intrigue, and conspiracy start to weave together. Oswald, a U.S. Marine, works as a radar operator at Atsugi base. He possesses secret clearance to a trove of critical information, including the Marines' superior height-finding radar gear and radio codes. But it's his next move that raises eyebrows. In 1959, Oswald embarks on a journey that takes him thousands of miles from home, to the heart of the Soviet Union. Why would an American Marine with insider knowledge seek refuge in the heart of the enemy? The timing of Oswald's actions couldn't have been more suspicious. He arrives in the Soviet Union in 1959, just a year before the U-2 incident unfolded. Oswald obtains a visa through Helsinki, the only city capable of granting a visa without prior Moscow approval. Once in Moscow, Oswald renounces his citizenship at a U.S. embassy. He tells the official that he is going to give classified information to the Soviets. One might wonder, was this a carefully orchestrated act, staged to catch the ears of potential KGB listeners within the embassy's walls? Despite the theatrics, the official does not accept the renunciation but simply takes Oswald's passport. A passport which he will return to Oswald after the U-2 incident. Could Oswald have been part of a covert operation sent to undermine Soviet relations? Regardless of his level of involvement, the U-2 incident, with all its complexities, had disrupted the peace process. Intriguingly, Khrushchev doesn't direct blame at Eisenhower for the U-2 incident. but rather hints at the presence of shadowy forces.
I do not doubt President Eisenhower's sincere desire for peace. But though the president is the highest authority in the United States, there are evidently circles which restrict him.
It's worth noting that Eisenhower would later echo Khrushchev's sentiments in his farewell address, issuing a solemn warning to Americans about the influence of the military-industrial complex, suggesting that there were indeed unseen forces at play behind the scenes.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
As for Oswald, the very day of the U-2 incident, Oswald's supervisor and friend Alexander Zeger urges him to return to the U.S. A year later, Oswald is married and in communication with the American embassy about his plans to return to the U.S. with his newly wedded wife, Marina Prusakova. Despite Marina's connections to Russian intelligence, the State Department makes all efforts to repatriate Oswald, returning his passport and even granting him a loan. By June of 1962, Oswald is en route to the U.S., heading toward a pivotal rendezvous with destiny,